Well, the ranking Republican on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee has stopped by this morning to talk about a number of things, including the economy and our financial crisis. And Congressman Darrell Issa is here. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's good to be on television back home rather than from Washington.
I know. Usually you were saying you come in on the weekends, and it's really busy in Washington. And so I'm glad you were able to make it on a Friday. And there's a lot going on that we want to talk to you about.
Absolutely.
But one of the big things is the housing crisis. And you recently did an investigation into kind of this relationship between Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Countrywide. And can you tell us about what you think about this relationship?
Well, what's interesting about it is Angela Mozillo, who was the longtime founder and head, came up with a program called Friends of Angelo. Now, you were not a friend of Angelo, but if you were a high-ranking politician or even a high-ranking staff person on the Financial Service Committee in Washington, House or Senate, you were on their list of people they wanted to offer $100,000, $200,000 in savings by having no closing costs, no fees whatsoever, and a lower interest rate. And of course, everything they wanted, including even executives at Fannie and Freddie, took these loans out that saved them a lot of money. And then, what a surprise, these government-sponsored entities basically took all the junk from Countrywide that today Bank of America is trying to clean up and liquidate. We look at waste, fraud, and abuse in government. That's why my job's bigger. If government's bigger, it has nothing to do with who's in charge, Republican or Democrat. This is part of the distortion where they saw $6 trillion worth of dump the paper at Countrywide, and they could make money on every transaction. So they made a fortune knowingly doing bad loans, but getting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to take them.
Now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, for viewers, they guarantee loans by the U.S. government. If we do away with them, what is an alternative? I mean, what's going to work?
Well, that's a good question. The first question is, why did we need to have these gigantic organizations? Why couldn't we have them be like the Federal Reserve? You have local entities, let's say, like the Federal Reserve of San Francisco, where it's regional, the money is put together regional. Somebody knows that the package of loans, if there's going to be, if you will, packaging up loans, comes from a region, and they're not split up quite the same way. In other words, not too big to fail, competitively looked at one region to the other, so that if San Francisco or Denver or some other area starts getting out of line, at least there's a check and balance. These organizations sitting in Washington giving millions of dollars to politicians, giving millions of dollars to their own executives, even though you and I were backing them, got to be so big they couldn't fail and they weren't responsible. And ultimately, we're now paying the price for their not being, if you will, a legitimate repackager of loans. And this is a problem not just in the U.S. Other countries had similar problems, but we've got to be a model for fixing it.
Now, I know you've been very outspoken, you know, about the White House administration and all this stuff. In November, if the GOP wins the House majority, what is your plan?
Well, I always tell people it doesn't change a lot. I'll ask the same questions. The difference is if we're in the majority, I'll have a better time getting the answers. My job is to make this administration do what it says it's going to do. We pass laws. Normally the president's very supportive of them, but when the bureaucracy, when 2 million bureaucrats around the world that work for the federal government and trillions of dollars go into play, I have 3,200 IGs that show me time and time again where they're not complying, and it's costing American jobs, it's costing Americans money. Getting that to be in this administration is a team effort. Right now, the majority is a team that isn't even looking over the shoulder of the president. That's my job. If we're in the majority, I'll bring some balance to that.
Okay, so I've heard these fiery responses, and you know, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you being here. We hope that when you do come back on Fridays, you can come and hang out with us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing you.
As we just scratched the surface. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
For more information, go to san diego6.com and click on Hot